Hello, everyone. This is Eldrazi.dev. I'm here joined by Dexter, who worked on creating the puzzle of the month of January that we nicknamed Death and Taxes. We're going to walk through the solution and kind of hear from him a little bit of, what kind of goes into making puzzles like this, how he came up with some of the lines. So yeah, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, Dexter, we can get into it afterwards.
Hi. I'm Dexter. I'm a Rockside player from Michigan. I'm most well known for getting top four at the Steel City Open, and I designed this puzzle, and I'm excited to talk about it.
All right, let's dive into it. So for the people that haven't ever seen this before, or used the playtester, we have a puzzles page where you can browse puzzles that people have created. There's some pretty interesting things in here. You can make them yourself. But let's dive into Dexter's puzzles. So we can kind of read through some of the description that he set. It's your upkeep. You need to find the win. We have a Pact of negation trigger. Opponents will control a Thalia, a phimage copy of Thalia, presumably on two separate boards, dampening sphere. And a big thing to keep in mind is that we have to assume that the opponents will copy the chain when it's correct for them to do so. Cool. So we have a Pact trigger on the stack, and presumably the first thing we need to do is pay for that Pact, yeah? So I guess, Dexter, kind of like, was there anything that you wanted to trip, people up here, or is this kind of something that's pretty straightforward of just like, tap your mana, pay for the Pacts?
But yeah, well, this was a part where I know a lot of people got tripped up on because usually, if you're in a game when you have a bunch of mana in your upkeep and you have a Pact negation trigger, sometimes you don't want to be paying for it because obviously it's 5 mana and there's some pretty mana intensive stacks pieces in play right now. So this would be a spot where I would assume a lot of players would try and go for a Born Upon a Wind or a Valley Flood color line, which is why I decided to begin the puzzle with a Pact trigger on stack, because I know it would increase the difficulty in a sense, because it's an added layer of something you have to think through in either direction of, do I pay for it or do I not?
Yeah. Cool. Is there anything special you need to consider when you're paying for it? Is it just like tap the right colors and just pay for the stack?
Yeah, for this puzzle, it's just tap whatever you want. I guess leave
Okay,
the most pips
zone.
available to you. So I'd probably tap
I
like a
see.
Monolith and whatever
Yeah.
else.
Okay. Okay. And then for the next step, I think what we were trying to do is activate the Wishclaw Talisman. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, cool. And from that, I believe we are looking for a Final Fortune?
Yeah, Final Fortune was the situation that came up in the game that I played this in, because it's actually a real game that I played in for most of the situation.
Like, what percentage do you think was like actually game lines versus like you adding to it?
Well, the Final Fortune was the line I had to find in the game, and then the stacks pieces, which was the basis of the puzzle, the Thalia, the clone of Thalia, and the Damping Sphere were actually in the game, which was pretty insane.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. Yeah. You know what's funny? People are asking me like, oh, how this doesn't seem like a real game that might have happened. Or I definitely got a lot of comments that were like, there's no way anyone finds this line in a live game. So I think, clearly some pilot diff in the Rockside community.
Yeah, no, it was a fun game. I ended up losing though. It was sad.
Oh, well, I think you probably feel pretty good for fighting this line anyways. Okay, so Final Fantasy goes to Graveyard after we cast it. Anything to do before, like, during this turn?
Nothing specific. It was just play land, activate Wishclaw, activate Wishclaw, cast Final Fortune with all your mana.
Cool. Okay, go to next turn, yeah. Okay, so obviously Necropotent skips our draw step. What are you looking to do after this?
So where this is was where the solutions could differ a little bit. Doesn't change. It changes a little bit how you order your spells that remove the stacks pieces. But obviously you need to get to your breach win, and to do that, you need to remove all these stacks pieces that impede that breach win. So there was you could cast, or if you play a land first, you could either cast your Snap, targeting the phimage Thalia, or you could cast your Chain Vapor, targeting the Phantasmal Image Thalia. And it didn't really matter which you did, but I chose to do the Chain Vapor first because I think it was the simplest.
Okay, let's do that. So Chain of Vapor, just tap any land for that, yeah?
Yeah, tap the Soul Ring and the Underground Sea, let's say.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so this will hit the phimage.
Phantasmal Image,
trigger,
yes,
right? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is on the stack. Hitting the phimage. The phimage trigger goes on the stack now. Yeah.
Yes. This was
Okay.
the big trip for the puzzle. This is the whole
Yeah.
thing you have to learn to solve it,
Yep.
which is
Yes.
pretty fun.
Yeah.
You have to
Okay.
let the
So
phimage trigger resolve,
cool. So this is gone.
goes to grave, and then holding
Seems
priority on
fair.
your own chain of Vapor, you have to cast Deflecting Swat.
Sweet. So the SWAT now goes. And what are you swatting the chain to?
Well, you have to pay your mana first. It's going to be like
Sure.
whatever pips. It doesn't matter for this one.
Okay.
So Springleaf and Badlands. And you swap the chain over to the Diving Sphere because our snap doesn't remove the Thalia. Sorry, you swapped the chain to the Soul Ring. I'm already.
It's been a couple weeks since you've made it, right? So okay.
Oh,
Cool.
and important to note, our gemstone mine has lost a counter from casting Final Fortune,
Yes. There you go.
which was technically relevant for this puzzle, but it didn't really matter too much.
Okay. So the chain resolves now, right?
Yep, we bounce our Soul Ring.
Okay. Put our Soul
Then we
Ring.
have to copy the chain, and now we bounce the Damping Sphere.
Okay, cool. So this is that to the graveyard, and the chain is now resolved as well, right? That was the copy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. And then this is where you said the order didn't really matter, but we would then try to snap the Thalia.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Just spend all our mana and snap with Thalia.
Okay. Are you tapping like the diamond here, or I guess you have spin all? Yeah. Right.
Yeah, because the Thalia increases our snap to cost 3, and then our gemstone mine dies.
Yeah. But yeah.
And one of our lands is gone for Chain of Vapor.
Chain of Vapor.
Sacrifice.
Yeah. Does that one matter, or does it?
No, it doesn't really change.
Okay. Okay. I think maybe we messed up one of these should be. No, we have the multiple hand. Okay.
All
right. So
snap resolves, untaps both our lands.
Yeah.
And then we get to go Soul Ring into Mox Opal into Underworld Breach.
Yeah. Here we go. Okay. So now Breach is in play. What are we doing next?
Probably, we should cast the Underworld Breach with the Soul Ring mana and leave an extra pip available.
Sure.
In the old version of this puzzle, this wouldn't be relevant, but when I was trying to add some difficulty to the puzzle, I removed the grinding station from the graveyard and I added a different card that would require a pip.
I see. Okay.
So now we have to cast Shade of Vapor again.
Okay. There you go.
Exile any 3 cards, but probably 3 lands.
Yeah. So we'll move this with
I guess not 3 lands, but Badlands, Gemstone Mine, and Deflecting Swat, let's say.
There you go. Okay,
It's
so what are
important
we
that
hitting with the Vapor?
you have to hit our Mox Opal.
Okay. This just resolved, right? Nothing else on the stack here?
Yeah. So we currently
Okay, cool.
have 1 colorless mana floating. But we do sack one of those lands and target our Soul Ring again.
Sure. Okay. Let's see. I can throw this. I can have a stack feature now for you to kind of like just see cards.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I can see that's kind of useful for like, you have some important spell stuck on the stack and you have to win without it. That's kind of cool. So yeah, we bounce our Soul Ring, we bounce our Mox Opal, and then after we do all that, we have to bounce our Wishclaw Talisman back to our hand.
Okay. And is
second
that the sec? Yeah. Okay. And I think it was at this point where the specific description about opponents copying your chain becomes relevant, right?
Yes. This puzzle would be a lot easier if our opponent didn't want to copy our chain and bounce our breach, which most of the time they do, right? Because we don't want them. Our opponents don't want us to win, so we have to cast Pact Negation from our graveyard on the chain of Vapor that our opponents are going to bounce our breach with, which is quite interesting. And I thought it was a pretty cool part of the puzzle. It's important that we have to leave Mana Vault in the graveyard is the important part.
Okay, so we are exiling any other 3, right? Okay. So opponent's copy of chain is now
Countered.
acted. Yeah.
No, we have another Pact trigger, damn. Right. So with empty stack and controlling breach, we can just cast all the rocks. We can go Soul Ring into Mox Opal.
Yeah, there goes the Mox Opal.
Yep. And then we have to cast our Mana Vault again for our graveyard with exactly enough cards in yard to do so, which I thought was quite fun. When I tried to put the Mana Vault in the graveyard to make the puzzle more difficult, I found that it just worked by itself. I thought I was going to have to add more cards in yard or something, but it was very useful that it just ended up being exactly the amount of cards we needed.
Oh, that's sweet. Nice.
Yeah, so we tap Soul Ring and we have a Colorless Footing now. And then we can use our Colorless Footing and the Mox Opal and cast the Wishclaw Talisman. From here, we go activate Wishclaw Talisman with Mana Vault, and we go find Grinding Station. And for all the Grixis plays out there, it should be a pretty easy loop with Grinding Station, any mana positive artifact, rock, and it'll breach. Specifically with Mox Opal in this situation. So we can go cast Grinding Station. We have a trigger that resolves, or that goes to the stack when our Grinding Station resolves, and we can respond to that trigger and sacrifice Mox Opal to target ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and then this is a loop where you essentially just mill your entire, put your library into your graveyard. Yeah.
Yeah. It is specific to note that within the first 3 cards, there could be a Phantasmal Oracle and a Praetor's Grasp and whatever other win con you have, let's say Brain Freeze. But in that situation, you're just able to sacrifice a different artifact to your untapped Grinding Station to mill additional 3 cards, so you don't have to exile any of your important win conditions when you recast your Mox Opal. We have enough spare artifacts in play that we're able to utilize them to get additional cards in your edge. And then from there, we mill our deck and produce mana with our Mox Opal along the way and cast Phantasmal Oracle once our library is empty.
And would it be okay? I'm assuming any sort of other breach-related line would be fine from here as well, right? Like,
yes, of course. Yeah, if you mill a Brain Freeze, you can cast that with your Mox Opal mana, but Phantasmal Oracle is usually the easiest once Grinding Station, especially because the end result of the loop is your library is empty.
So that's pretty much the solution of the puzzle, right?
Yep.
I'm curious if there's any parts of the puzzle that you thought were really nifty, or anything else that you wanted to call out about it.
Well, of course, the Phantasmal Image trigger part was the whole basis of the puzzle. It was the most interesting part, in my opinion. And it's kind of a learning moment for a lot of players because as much as it's come up for me very little, I think the game that I learned that I made this puzzle from is the only game I've ever had to do this, in which you can change the target of your Chain Prayer while it's still on the stack after the Phantasmal Image trigger resolves, which is quite cool. Then there was...
I guess quick question for that, like when you were thinking through this live over the table, was this, kind of talk me through that. Was that like something that you kind of already knew that you had an inkling that you could do, or is that something like you kind of had to discover in the moment as well?
This was, I think this was almost a year ago now, and this was my first time discovering this trick. I was in a long Necro end step in which I had to Final Fortune. In this situation, I had a lot more cards in hand, and I had a lot more decisions to make in which I was discarding. And I had to figure out, how do I get rid of these 3 stacks pieces? And ended up coming with this solution, which I thought was really cool. Yeah. Especially in the moment of some random game that was like, oh, that's a really cool line. And then I got silenced and I lost, but it was fun.
I see. Of course, yeah. Do you remember what decks you were playing against in the pod?
So I think there was a Tivit, which I think had the Damping Sphere. And I think that same Tivit player also had the Thalia. I think it was a Terra player, which was the one who ended up silencing me. And then there was the Rograkh player who controlled the French copy of Thalia to stop me. This was my turn 2 in the real game, not in this one, but yeah. I untapped, I went to Necro, and then I untapped, and they were like, oh, now there's a Damping Sphere, 2 Thalias in play, how the hell do I win?
That's still sick, like that they had to... If it wasn't for the silence, which we could always just say that, but I'm guessing you would have got there had it not been for that silence, right?
Yeah.
Presumably. I mean, I don't know what else they had.
It was pretty similar to this. I just had to reach and whatever win.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was really cool in your puzzle was how relevant the gemstone mine was. And I think when I was trying to solve this originally, I remember seeing that when I first opened it. I was like, huh, interesting. There's a couple counters on here, and it's one a sack, right?
Yes.
And I was kind of like, I remember seeing it early on, and I kind of forgot about it. And then I think I had gotten through the Final Fortune turn, and I was on the next step. I had gotten, I think, eventually rid of some of the stacks pieces, and I was just kind of like counted Underworld Breach out sort of a little bit, because I was like, I don't know, there's just like not enough cards in the graveyard to like get past that. And I think by this time, I got pretty hard stuck, and then we were chatting separately about the puzzle, and I think you had sent me a solution, and I saw it and I was like, oh shit, okay, yeah, I forgot that thing existed. But I thought that was really cool bit where you're like mana per like the mana had to be exact. The cards in graveyard had to be exact the entire way through. I thought that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it was a pretty nifty thing. This is especially possible because the deck list I'm using for this puzzle is not my own deck list, but a good friend, Doot Lead. They're an Archetype player, and they play Gemstone Mine, and I do not. So I was trying to figure out ways of how I can incorporate the differences that they have in their deck list into the puzzle, because obviously we want to shout out to our good friend Doot. So it was important that I used at least one card that was unique to his deck list, at least to me.
So there's a solution. And any other last comments, shout outs that you want to give related to the puzzle?
Well, I suppose I should shout out my good friend Jace. He helped me a little bit when I first showed the puzzle to him. It was a rough draft, and he helped me touch it up, add some more decision trees, some more difficulty, and I really think it elevated the puzzle to a state that is it now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. How would you rate this puzzle now that you've kind of like had a month to simmer on it in terms of difficulty?
Getting people's opinions on it and thinking through it myself again, I think I would rate this as like an 8 or a 9, somewhere in the middle, maybe 8.5.
Okay. All right, man. It was great chatting with you. Obviously, if you don't follow Dexter, I'm sure many of you Rockside pilots or aspirational Rockside pilots probably will come across his deck list specifically. And yeah, definitely follow him. He's one of the best Rockside pilots out there. So appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.